Those 4 words from my son David, uttered only 3 weeks following his dad's funeral, demolished the fragile calm I was clinging to. I continued to wear Robert's worn sweater and rest on his half of the bed, since mine seemed so chilly and vacant. The aroma of his aftershave clung to the material, offering the sole solace in this dwelling that now resembled a tomb. David positioned himself in the entrance to the living room, his spouse Jessica next to him sporting that rehearsed grin she used at fundraising events. The identical expression she directed at me during the service, as she no doubt pondered how fast they might dispose of my 45 years of existence. "Certainly, dear, have a seat." I motioned toward the sofa where Robert and I had viewed endless football matches on Sundays, where we'd soothed David as a fussy infant, where we'd marked every holiday morning over the years. Jessica settled on the cushion's border as if fearing the upholstery could soil her high-end outfit. David avoided meeting my gaze. "Mom, this place is oversized for you at this point." His words held that patronizing edge he'd honed in business meetings. "It's impractical. The repairs, the land fees, the general care. It's overwhelming for a person of your years." As though reaching 68 put me halfway to death. Jessica and I have researched some charming retirement spots. Sunrise Manor offers a wonderful setup in White Plains, far better suited to your circumstances. My circumstances: bereaved, isolated, expendable. What David is trying to say, Jessica cut in, her tone oozing phony warmth, is that we worry about you wandering alone in this vast space. It's risky. What if you slipped? What if an emergency occurred? I observed them, these individuals I'd hosted at my dining table for 15 years, whom I'd cared for during their work-related escapes to the Hamptons. The same Hamptons where Jessica shared social media images of bubbly breakfasts while I remained with Emma and Lucas, sharing nighttime tales and showing them how to prepare treats like oatmeal raisin bars. "We've reached out to an agent already," David went on, retrieving his device as if checking a shopping checklist. "The market is strong currently. We might secure nearly 2.8 million, possibly 3. Once we address Dad's obligations and manage the inheritance duties, there ought to be sufficient remaining for a decent unit at Sunrise Manor, plus perhaps a small savings reserve." A small savings from selling the residence where I'd nurtured him, tended to him during illnesses like measles, commemorated his diploma ceremony, swayed at his marriage party in our garden. "We've placed a reservation fee already," Jessica interjected, barely hiding her enthusiasm. "A nice single bedroom opens up soon. It includes a small cooking area and all essentials." A small cooking area for the lady who'd organized a feast for 23 guests the prior autumn. Something fractured deep in my core. But it wasn't sorrow shattering me. It was a tougher resolve, one that had grown quietly through 45 years of prioritizing others. "You've placed a reservation fee," I echoed deliberately. "No need to fret over funds, Mom. We'll manage it all. The forms, the relocation service, organizing Dad's belongings. You won't have to worry over any details." Dad's belongings, as if Robert's whole existence could be condensed into charity donations. I rose gradually, my grip remarkably firm. "Leave now. Mom, avoid theatrics. Leave my home." My tone was soft, yet it caused David's lips to seal abruptly. Immediately. Jessica's mask splintered. "Margaret, you're clearly still mourning. Your judgment is clouded." I repeated, "Leave." I proceeded to the entry and swung it open. "And David, stay away until you recall who brought you up." As they hurried to their luxury vehicle, Jessica muttering words like unappreciative and elderly, I shut the entrance and rested against it. The following day, I'd place a call that would alter it all. But that evening I'd grieve, not solely for Robert, but for the child I believed I understood. If you're following this tale, please hit subscribe and comment with your location. I suspect you'll be eager for the continuation. What they were unaware of was that Robert had prepared for this precise scenario over several years. What they were unaware of was that Robert had prepared for this precise scenario over several years. The day after David's demand, I positioned myself in Robert's office, encircled by his legal volumes and the subtle odor of his smoking blend. My fingers trembled while dialing the contact I'd discovered in his address ledger, inscribed in his precise script. Henry Morrison. Contact if Margaret requires assistance. Robert had never spoken of Henry Morrison. Morrison and Associates. A sharp response came. This is Margaret Thompson. My spouse Robert died 3 weeks back, and I located your details. Mrs. Thompson. The reply softened instantly. I've anticipated your outreach. Kindly wait briefly. Anticipated my outreach. Mrs. Thompson. Henry Morrison here. To start, my sincerest sympathies. Robert wasn't merely a patron, he was a close companion. This must be daunting, but he provided explicit directives. My pulse raced. Directives? Could you visit my workspace this afternoon? There are papers he insisted you review in person. Papers that, to put it mildly, could shift your present position substantially. 2 hours on, I faced Henry Morrison in his New York suite, a refined gentleman in his 60s with compassionate gaze and tailored attire. Separating us was a folder bearing my name in Robert's lettering. Prior to proceeding, Henry stated, Robert required me to pose one query. He claimed you'd grasp it. Does she recall my words regarding the beacon? The beacon? I inhaled sharply, my palm rising to my neck. On our second milestone, Robert drove me to Montauk Point. We descended the tower, and he'd remarked, Maggie, vow this to me. Regardless of events, no matter who seeks to dull your glow, know you're more resilient than you realize, and I'll ensure you possess all necessary to radiate. I'd chuckled and labeled him a sentimental dreamer. Yes, I murmured. I recall. Henry grinned and pushed the folder toward me. Then this belongs to you. Within were files that caused my grasp to quiver. A protected fund valued at $12.8 million, shares, securities, investment profiles I'd been oblivious to, and ownership papers for 847 Ocean Road, East Hampton, New York. Robert acquired the Hamptons residence 18 months prior, Henry clarified. He aimed to guarantee you'd forever have a spot to deem home, irrespective of outcomes. The property holds a value of about $8.2 million, completely equipped, and it's yours free and clear. No loans, no claims. I gazed at the records, struggling to absorb the sight. But how? Robert's enterprise. I assumed we were stable, but not. Your partner was an astute financier, Mrs. Thompson. He commenced safeguarding your future the moment David wed. He stated, and these are his words, I adore my boy, but I'm familiar with Jessica. Should anything befall me, Margaret must be shielded. He anticipated David could favor alternate priorities over your care. Robert ensured that wouldn't pose an issue. Henry inclined nearer. There's additional. The fund includes particular clauses. Should anyone try to influence, pressure, or exploit you monetarily, the fund initiates extra safeguards. I reflected on David's offhand reference to inheritance liabilities, his assurance that perhaps a minor reserve would remain. What sort of safeguards? Henry's expression turned keen. Suffice to say, Robert was meticulous. He chronicled all. Each family meal discussion, every remark Jessica uttered on legacies. Each instance David speculated on future actions, he noted them. Your partner was terminal, Mrs. Thompson. He had time to watch and arrange. He foresaw precisely the post-funeral events. I leaned away stunned. Robert had stayed ahead while I sorrowed, guarding me from beyond death. One final item, Henry mentioned, advancing another file. He provided a message for you. With unsteady digits, I unsealed the cover labeled for my Maggie. If this reaches you, David has revealed his genuine nature. No tears, darling. Feel fury. You've devoted 45 years as the ideal partner and parent. Now embrace the lady I always recognized in you. Bold, self-reliant, and invincible. The Hamptons residence contains all you require. The access is with Morrison. Head there today. Launch your fresh existence. And Maggie, ensure they recognize your true strength. Eternally yours, Robert. I glanced at Henry through moisture that no longer stemmed from grief. Can you transport me to the Hamptons? But initially, a call was necessary. I contacted David's line from Henry's space, my delivery as solid as iron. Mom, regarding yesterday. Jessica believes we might have been overly blunt. David, I've pondered your points. You're correct. This residence exceeds my needs. Quiet ensued. Then, oh, that's positive, Mom. Quite sensible. I'll require aid in boxing Robert's items. Could you and Jessica stop by tomorrow near midday? I wish to review all as kin. Definitely. Jessica will feel eased. She feared you'd resist this. Resist? As if desiring to retain my 45-year abode was absurd. Oh, and David, include Jessica's folks as well. And your Uncle Frank. I desire all to witness your kindness toward your aging mom. Mom, this isn't like you. I'm merely weary, dear. Tomorrow we'll resolve it all. Henry escorted me to East Hampton that day. As we entered Ocean Road, my respiration halted. The structure was splendid. A vast gray-shingled manor with pale accents, encircling verandas and landscapes descending to a secluded shore. It resembled a spread from a glossy publication, the type Jessica highlighted online when among affluent acquaintances. Robert selected wisely, Henry noted, presenting the keys. He dedicated months to locating the ideal spot. Within, the interior proved even more breathtaking. Tall panes framed the sea. Furnishings draped in pale cloths appeared pristine, and vibrant blooms adorned crystal containers on each surface. The caretaker, Maria, has kept it pristine, Henry described. Robert organized complete personnel, landscaper, cleaner, even a cook if desired. All covered for the coming 5 years. In the primary sleeping quarters, I spotted another cover on the bedside. Inside was an image of Robert and me from our post-wedding trip to Cape Cod. And a further message, welcome to your domain, Maggie. This is your destined place. Beside the water. In brightness, liberated to express yourself. Tomorrow, as they grasp their loss, recall you owe them 0. But should you opt to pardon, confirm they've merited it. P.S. Inspect the wardrobe. The spacious storage revealed further astonishments. High-fashion garments in my precise measurements, labels intact, footwear, purses, accessories, all I'd admired in periodicals, but skipped for practicality. Robert had crafted this haven over months. That night, I lounged on the terrace observing swells pound the coast, savoring wine from a fine goblet, draped in a soft wrap pricier than my weekly food expenses. For the initial instance in weeks, respiration came easily. But the morrow held the genuine challenge. The subsequent dawn, I returned to Westchester in Robert's H sedan, the vehicle David presumed would vanish with the rest. I reached at 11:30 and initiated my act. I was in the cooking area clad in my most dated garment and coverall when they entered. David, Jessica, her guardians Barbara and Richard Wellington, and Uncle Frank entered the sitting area like predators eyeing a target. Margaret, sweetheart, Barbara Wellington cooed. David shared your choice. Such prudence to reduce size at your stage. Jessica nearly trembled with anticipation, her sight appraising the vintage pieces and artwork. We fetched containers, she declared. I figured we'd commence with the pricier items. Naturally, I responded timidly. I'm simply thankful David oversees all. I'd be lost otherwise. I noted Jessica tallying mentally, the fine glassware, the exotic carpets, the heirloom timepiece Robert received from his dad. She was mentally redesigning already. Now, Mom, David stated, easing into Robert's preferred seat. We must address finances. Dad's venture carried some liabilities, and the legacy levies will be substantial. We'll require a swift sale to manage all. Liabilities? I allowed my speech to waver. But I believed Robert assured our stability. Dad shielded you from tough facts, David clarified condescendingly. That's a spouse's role. But rest easy, Jessica, and I will direct all. You won't concern yourself with finances whatsoever. Uncle Frank adjusted uneasily. He'd collaborated with Robert longer than most. The agent estimates $3 million, Jessica added. Post costs enough for your space and perhaps $50,000 surplus. $50,000 from a $3 million property and 45 years united. That appears quite benevolent, I breathed. We're kin, David proclaimed generously. We support one another. I stepped away for beverages and contacted Henry from the cooking space. It's the moment, I whispered. Certain? I peered through the opening as Jessica lifted my ancestors' porcelain, assessing it like goods. Certain. The entry bell sounded at precisely 1 p.m. The entry bell sounded at precisely 1 p.m. I'll answer, I stated, straightening my coverall with quivering palms, though no longer from dread. Henry Morrison appeared at my threshold with 2 additional gentlemen in fine attire and a lady toting a portfolio. At their rear was a dark car exuding wealth and influence. Mrs. Thompson, Henry addressed officially. We're present for the legacy review you sought. Legacy review? David's tone faltered from the sitting area. I guided them within, observing Jessica's complexion pale as she identified the caliber of attorneys billing $500 hourly merely to exist. All, meet Henry Morrison, Robert's counsel, and his team from Morrison and Associates in New York. Barbara Wellington almost sputtered on her drink. Morrison and Associates managed elite cases like the Kennedys. Apologies, David stuttered. But we hadn't anticipated, Mom, you omitted. Robert supplied precise directives, Henry interposed, placing his case on the low table with intentional care. Directives executable only post certain developments. The lady, named Patricia Chin, financial investigator, started extracting files from her case as the other attorneys positioned themselves like guards. Mrs. Thompson, Henry proceeded. Your partner was exhaustive in his ultimate desires. He noted various worries about possible discrepancies in his legacy. Jessica clutched David's limb. What discrepancies? Let's begin with the evident, Patricia Chin remarked, referencing her screen. Mr. David Thompson, you referenced legacy liabilities and major levies. Can you supply proof of these liabilities? David's jaw moved soundlessly. Well, I presumed. Presumed? Henry restated. On what basis? Company debt, legacy levies, burial expenses. David's volume diminished per term. Mr. Robert Thompson's venture held no debt. Patricia declared his coverage policy of $2.2 million handled all burial costs, with $1 million left over. Legacy levies, thanks to strategic foresight, total roughly $340,000. Silence enveloped the space save the heirloom timepiece's rhythm. Moreover, Henry advanced, Mr. Thompson chronicled intriguing dialogues. He activated a compact recorder. Robert's timbre resonated clearly. Margaret, fetch me water? Throat parched. Then Jessica's timbre. Once this ends, we can upgrade our kitchen at last. This place will fetch at least $3 million. David's timbre ensued. Mom won't require much. Elder care is inexpensive, and she's always struggled with finances anyhow. Jessica appeared stunned. That was confidential talk. In a terminal man's abode, Henry responded icily. A man fully conscious of surrounding statements. Uncle Frank leaned ahead. Hold on. Robert never cited any debt to me, and I managed his records for 30 years. Since none existed, Patricia affirmed. Mr. Thompson's holdings total about $18.7 million in fluid resources, plus real estate appraised at another $12.3 million. Barbara Wellington let her mug fall. It broke on the timber floor Robert had restored personally 2 decades prior. $31 million, David murmured. But now the fascinating aspect, Henry grinned, lacking warmth. Mr. Thompson reorganized his full holdings 6 months pre-death. The shared residence, joint profiles, and bulk of fluid resources moved into a permanent trust. Jessica regained speech. A trust? Which variety? The Margaret Thompson Survival Trust, Patricia proclaimed, with Mrs. Thompson as exclusive recipient and overseer. I witnessed avarice fade from Jessica's features, supplanted by near alarm. That's unfeasible, she exhaled. Spousal resources can't simply transfer. They can when both partners endorse the files, Henry stated, displaying documents bearing Robert's mark and mine. Mrs. Thompson endorsed these 3 months back. David fixed on me. You were aware? You were aware and permitted us. Permitted you what, David? I inquired softly. Permitted you to demonstrate precisely who you've evolved into. Jessica rose unsteadily. This is deceit. She influenced a fading man. In fact, Patricia noted, reviewing her data, We possess visual records of each endorsement plus mental evaluations confirming Mr. Thompson's complete lucidity. Henry agreed. Your partner was terminal, Mrs. Thompson, yet his intellect remained acute till the close. He desired to observe his kin's treatment of you when they deemed you defenseless and solitary. The space whirled for David like a storm. So you possess all? Not all. I responded, rising and removing my coverall. I possess what Robert intended for me, what he labored 45 years to provide. Jessica's delivery dripped malice. You plotting elder. Caution yourself, Uncle Frank cautioned, rising. His tone bore the weight of a builder who'd erected half the county's structures. I approached the pane and surveyed the yard where Robert and I had sown flowers for our decade mark. David, recall your dad's words on esteem? Mom, please, let's discuss logically. He claimed esteem isn't inherited. It's gained daily. I pivoted to confront them. Well, bravo. You've all gained precisely what you've merited. But I hadn't concluded with them. Henry, kindly display the Hamptons asset files. Jessica's hue shifted from ashen to sickly. Hampton's asset? Henry arrayed images on the low table like wagering in an intense card match. Overhead views of a grand seaside domain, expert internal shots displaying spaces fit for design journals. 847, Ocean Road, East Hampton, Henry declared. Obtained 18 months back for $8.2 million, presently assessed at $9.1 million. Barbara Wellington bent nearer, peering at the images. Hold, is that the Morrison domain? The one showcased in upscale living mags? Indeed, I verified. Robert secured it from the Morrison clan last year. Unrelated Morrisons? I appended with a slight grin to Henry. Jessica seized an image, her grip unsteady. This is your residence since yesterday? Yes, rather cozy. The sea vista from the main chamber is extraordinary. David resembled a collision victim. You've resided in the Hamptons while we imagined you here weeping over beverages. I never favored tea, I noted, though the place boasts a superb wine storage. Robert filled it with vintages predating your union. Jessica's words were choked. The Hamptons' place exceeds our flat, vehicles, and David's retirement combined. Curious viewpoint, I pondered, though unfamiliar to me. I've never tallied others' wealth and schemed its use. The hush was profound. Uncle Frank coughed. Maggie, why the charade? Why not disclose up front? I moved to Robert's workstation and lifted a framed shot of David's diploma event. We'd brimmed with pride then, overflowing with aspirations for his path. Because, Frank, I required insight into my son's authentic self. Not my wishes or his facades at gatherings. I needed his real essence when he viewed me as helpless. I placed the shot gently. Robert perceived. He'd observed, heard, readied. He wished me to perceive too. Mom, David uttered, his delivery fracturing. We can mend this. Mend what precisely? I faced him. The willingness to confine me in a single-room unit while disposing of my abode. The reality your spouse was internally revamping before your dad cooled in earth. Jessica erupted at last. You're a scheming, spiteful senior. David merits his legacy. His legacy? I chuckled, the noise keen as a blade. Explain, Jessica, what do you believe David received from his dad? The venture, the abode, the holdings. David received his dad's principles, his diligence, his honesty, his ability for affection and yielding. I stared at my son. The issue is, what have you done with that legacy? Patricia chin-coughed. If permitted, Mrs. Thompson, there are further clauses to cover. She extracted another file. Mr. Thompson created a learning reserve for Emma and Lucas, your grandkids. $2 million apiece, available at 18, with extra for higher education. David's gaze lifted. The youngsters? Their grandpa aimed to secure their paths despite other factors, Henry elaborated. Jessica's gaze sparked with scheming desire. Well, as guardians, we'll oversee those reserves. In truth, Patricia interjected fluidly, the reserves are directed by a neutral overseer. Mrs. Thompson holds power to decide access per the kids' bond with her and their display of the principles Mr. Thompson sought to impart. The space quieted as the ramifications settled. You imply, David articulated gradually. If we fail, If you disapprove our rearing, I mean, your kids' grandpa cherished them sufficiently to guard their paths from their parents' errors, I asserted resolutely. Barbara Wellington rose suddenly. Richard, time to depart. This concerns kin. In fact, I noted, remain, as there's more you must learn. I signaled Henry, who retrieved another audio tool. This captured last year's holiday meal, he stated. Barbara's timbre echoed. Well, upon Margaret's passing, David won't need to sustain her further. Senior support burdens thriving kin so. Richard's timbre followed. The abode itself should position them well. Choice location like that. Barbara's features reddened. That lacked context. Did it? I queried. It rings quite evident to me. I advanced to the shelf and aligned Robert's Vietnam Honor Medal, the one he seldom discussed, but maintained spotless each Remembrance Day. Here's the plan, I declared, my delivery wielding the cloud of $31 million and a lady who'd uncovered her might. I'm relocating to the Hamptons abode forever. This place will sell, proceeds to the injured veteran's cause, one your dad valued deeply. David's jaw dropped. You're disposing of our kin abode? My abode, I amended. And yes, to appreciative owners. I pivoted to them. No more the submissive bereaved they'd aimed to control. But first, I'm organizing a small assembly this weekend. All our acquaintances, all locals, everyone inquiring on my state since Robert's departure. Jessica's words were faint. What assembly? My grin could illuminate the coast. A festivity of fresh starts. My grin could illuminate the coast. A festivity of fresh starts. Saturday dawn brought the sort of brisk fall climate that renders the Hamptons appear as divine craftsmanship. I positioned on my terrace in a smooth gown costlier than David's vehicle installment, viewing the service crew arrange setups on the sand. Maria, my maintainer, had excelled. Pale cloths billowed in the sea air. Fine stemware reflected sunlight like gems, and aromas of deluxe appetizers wafted from the culinary space where cooks performed wonders. Mrs. Thompson, Maria approached with worry. Your son phoned thrice this morn. He appears distressed. I'm certain, I answered, fixing a cluster of pale blooms. Did you mention the event commences at 2? Yes, but he claimed he's absenting. His spouse, she yelled behind. I wasn't astonished. Post Thursday's disclosure, David dialed 17 times. I'd responded once, endured 5 minutes of frantic regrets and monetary offers, then disconnected. The initial attendees reached at precisely 2 p.m. Eleanor Hartwell, my adjacent resident for 23 years, emerged from her luxury car in a tailored ensemble and baffled. Look. Margaret, love, she pecked both sides, then retreated to absorb the grand structure. When you mentioned beach relocation, I didn't envision this. Robert possessed superb judgment, I replied plainly. Following Eleanor arrived the Petersons, the Clarks, the Washingtons. All pairs Robert and I had mingled with for ages. Their expressions mirrored, astonishment, bewilderment, then subtle wonder at the seaside villa. Goodness, Margaret, Dorothy Peterson murmured. This spot must exceed our imaginings. Robert brimmed with revelations. In an hour, 40 visitors mingled on my shore, tasting bubbly and marveling at the shift in the lady they'd viewed as modest Margaret, Robert's reserved partner. Then David's luxury car entered the curved drive. He exited slowly, in a wrinkled outfit and the demeanor of a condemned individual. Jessica stayed seated, shades concealing what I presumed were swollen lids. I observed from the terrace as David neared the gathering, his sight sweeping known visages from our network. These were folks who'd recognized him from adolescence, who'd toasted his advancements and joined his nuptials. David, Eleanor summoned, gesturing him near. We were praising your mom's remarkable new abode. I descended the terrace steps with the poise of a lady who'd grasped her value. Everyone, I proclaimed, my words traveling across the sand effortlessly. Gratitude for attending to mark this fresh phase in my path. Discussions hushed as attendees faced me. As many realize, Robert's loss has been my life's toughest trial. 45 years wed, then abruptly solitary, pondering my tomorrow. David halted rigid at the group's border, seeming eager to vanish into the grains. But Robert, with boundless insight, had prearranged my tomorrow. He aimed to ensure I'd never rely on others' mercy or its absence. Some perceptive nods exchanged among attendees. Tight communities spread whispers swiftly, and kin strife rumors circulate fast. This abode, I indicated the villa rearward, was Robert's ultimate present to me. A location for independent living amid splendor, with resources to aid others as we always envisioned. Eleanor elevated her bubbly flute to Robert's vision and Margaret's fresh dawn. To Margaret, the assembly repeated as vessels rang and talks recommenced. I spotted various attendees drifting to David, their looks varying from inquisitive to mildly distant. Frank Morrison, the adjacent, not the counsel, pinned David by the refreshment spot. "Your mom's rather self-sufficient now, lad?" "Yes, sir," David muttered. Fortunate, too, Frank proceeded audibly for close listeners. Caught wind of nasty tales on kin exploiting bereaved. Repulsive conduct, in my view. David's complexion deepened red. Margaret Washington, our past reading group leader, entered the exchange. I recall my herald's passing. Some relatives emerged like scavengers. Thankfully, Margaret had Robert safeguarding her posthumously, Dorothy Peterson added pointedly. I observed David weather 20 minutes of growing sharp remarks and veiled charges. Our circle wasn't naive. They deciphered a son's gloom at his mom's independence festivity. At last, I neared him by the waterline where he lingered solo, eyeing the swells. "You arrived?" I noted plainly. "Jessica's in the vehicle sobbing," he answered without glancing. "She claims her folks shun her." Word spread on Thursday's session evidently. Tight circles. "Mom, I recognize my error." "Our error, but can we repair? Can we reunite as kin?" I examined my son, truly examined. I spotted the frightened youth who'd seek me post-bad dreams. The adolescent who'd share college ambitions. The youth who'd sought proposal guidance for Jessica. But also the adult ready to store me in an elder spot while vending my abode. "David," I uttered softly, "kin isn't blood-based. It's esteem, fidelity, and affection. Deeds, not phrases." He met my gaze at last. "What must I do?" "That," I stated, "rests with you. Thanks for following Margaret's tale. If this path moves you, please subscribe and post your reflections below. At times, we must recall our value." But David's true trial was commencing. 3 weeks post-Hampton's event, an unforeseen guest appeared at my seaside refuge. Emma, my 12-year-old grandchild, stood at my entry holding a sleepover pack, her face marked by tears. Grandma Maggie, Mom, and Dad argue once more. "May I remain?" My core split. I embraced her, inhaling her berry wash scent. "Certainly, love, anytime." As I arranged Emma in a spare chamber, the one with the ledge seat viewing the flora, she eventually described home events. "Dad rests in his workspace now," she whispered, arranging her items with the meticulous care of a youth controlling chaos. "Mom weeps often and dials Grandma Barbara, but Grandma Barbara disconnects. I'm regretful you're facing this, dear." Grandma Maggie. Emma's tone was tiny. "Are you truly wealthy now?" I settled beside her on the mattress, selecting terms thoughtfully. "Your grandpa ensured my comfort." "Yes. Mom claims you took Dad's legacy. She says you deceived Grandpa Robert into granting you all." The ache of my reputation smeared via my grandchild's pure voice was nearly intolerable. But this mirrored Robert's dread. That Jessica would taint the youngsters against me. "Emma, regard me." I lifted her face to meet my eyes. "Have I deceived you ever?" "No, ma'am." "Then believe this. Your grandpa cherished your dad greatly, but he recognized adults err when prioritizing funds over kin." She assented gravely with the seriousness kids gain when maturing prematurely. That night, as Emma aided me craft oatmeal raisin treats in my upscale culinary space, David rang. "Mom, Emma's vanished." Jessica's frantic. "She was due at practice, but she's present," I replied steadily, observing Emma gauge flavor precisely. "And she'll stay till you and Jessica cease harming your kids with your self-centeredness." "You can't seize my child." I didn't seize. She sought me as her home lacks safety now. Not bodily, but sentimentally. Via the line, Jessica shrieked afar. "She's alienating the kids from us. This is guardian estrangement." "David," I asserted strongly. "Emma's welcome indefinitely, but for her return, offer a worthy home. I ended the call and pivoted to see Emma observing with earnest eyes. Will you force Mom and Dad to act kindly? Oh, dear, I smoothed her locks. I can't compel anyone. But occasionally, losing treasure reminds priorities. The next dawn delivered Lucas, my 9-year-old grandson, brought by a contrite David, appearing sleepless. Jessica returned to her folks, he confessed, evading my gaze. She's seeking split. Claims I've wrecked her existence by not confronting you. And your view? David met my eyes, and I witnessed something absent for years. True regret. I view I've wrecked my existence by overlooking my upbringer. For the ensuing week, both grandkids stayed with me. We constructed sand structures, investigated shallow pools, and shared evening tales on the terrace beneath clearer stars than Westchester's. But I monitored them closely, noting flinches at raised tones, how Emma instinctively comforted Lucas when distressed, how both posed cautious queries on being burdensome. These youths bore loads unfit for children. On Friday night, around the flame area toasting sweets, Emma inquired, "Grandma Maggie, do you believe Mom and Dad will separate?" Lucas scooted nearer, his young face wrinkling with concern. "Uncertain, dear, but this I know. Regardless of parental outcomes, you're adored by me, by your grandpa's legacy, and fundamentally by your dad too." "What of Mom?" Lucas murmured. I picked terms like a healer selects tools. Your mom hurts currently. At times, pained adults overlook proper affection. But that doesn't erase the affection. Emma, mature for her age, assented reflectively. Like injuring your limb and unable to function till healed. Precisely, dear. Saturday delivered the confrontation I'd foreseen. David came with Jessica, her guardians, and a kin dispute resolver. "We're retrieving our kids," Jessica stated, her tone fragile with pretend command. The resolver, a kind lady named Susan Martinez, surveyed the lovely abode and content kids with expert eye. "The youngsters seem well and joyful," she noted. "Have they voiced any stay preference?" Emma advanced with bravery echoing Robert. "We desire to remain with Grandma Maggie till Mom and Dad halt disputes." Jessica's features collapsed. "Emma, dear, Grandma manipulates you." "No, she doesn't." Lucas erupted with youthful outrage. "She prepares meals and aids studies and yells at no one." The ensuing hush was profound. David advanced, his tone breaking. "Mom, reveal what I must do." I regarded my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandkids trapped in grown-up flaws. "You seek what to do, David?" He assented urgently. "Evolve into the individual your dad nurtured you as." Evolve into the individual your dad nurtured you as. David's features folded like a preteen nabbed fibbing and confronting paternal letdown. But now know Robert to redirect him correctly. "I no longer recognize that person." He breathed. Jessica advanced, her fine shoes tapping my stone floor. "This is absurd." David ceased pleading. "We'll pursue legal if needed." The resolver, Susan Martinez, jotted on her board. "Mrs. Thompson, legal threats hinder kin resolution." "I'm not threatening," Jessica retorted. "I'm declaring realities. These kids belong with parents, not a resentful senior bribing with luxury." Emma inhaled sharply, and Lucas gripped my palm firmer. Something altered within me. Not rage, but clear precision reminiscent of Robert's decisive instance. "Susan," I uttered calmly, "might you grant the kids and me moments with David? Alone?" Jessica objected, but Susan lifted her palm. "Seems fair. Mrs. Thompson, perhaps a wait in the light room with your folks." Post their exit, I seated David at my culinary surface, the same where we'd spend a week on assignments and tales. Emma and Lucas bordered him like small protectors guarding an injured fighter. "Dad," Emma whispered. "Why attempt to place Grandma Maggie in that senior spot?" David's grasp quivered, reaching for his brew. "I believed it simpler for her." "Safer, but you neglected to inquire," Lucas highlighted with crushing child reason. "No, pal. I neglected to inquire." "Grandpa Robert always inquired Grandma's wishes," Emma appended. "Even on minor choices like film selection. I observed my son intake these basic facts from his offspring. Teachings on regard and alliance he'd lost in mature quests for ease and dominance." "Kids," I uttered tenderly, "why not gather shore items? Your dad and I require discussion." After they dashed out, David met my gaze. Mom, I acknowledge my failure, but Jessica's correct on one. The kids require steadiness. Their abode, schools. They require guardians prioritizing their welfare, I amended. Tell me, David, when last did you query Emma on her pals? When last aided Lucas's Project Sans device? He stayed silent long, viewing his offspring via the pane as they dashed the coast. I became all Dad cautioned against. He uttered at last, self-absorbed, privileged, more focused on gains than gifts. Yes, you did. My directness stunned him over pity would. But David, your dad also imparted that redirection is always possible. The query is, desire change or merely the legacy return? He remained quiet so long I thought no reply. Then when Emma embraced you yesterday gardening, she appeared serene. I hadn't witnessed her serene in months. And I grasped that Jessica and I fixated on funds and fault, overlooking two kids viewing us ruin their joys. Via the pane, I saw Emma instructing Lucas on shell varieties. Her calm tone drifting on the sea wind. Your dad bequeathed you a legacy, David. Not currency. That never belonged to you. He bequeathed his ethics, his model, his kin priority. The query is, your action with it? David rose suddenly and approached the pane, his frame trembling. I desire my kids' pride in me, he uttered. As I once prided Dad. Then display a worthy man. That day, David astonished all, me included. He requested Jessica for coffee, not to debate or bargain, but for sincere talk on their kids tomorrow. And initially in weeks, he abandoned his device in the vehicle. 2 hours on, he returned with swollen eyes but firmer posture. I shared truth with Jessica, he uttered. That I'd been awful spouse and egotistic parent. That our kids merit superior to viewing us dismantle over unowned greed. Her reaction? She labeled me feeble for not battling you more. He sank heavily, but then she sobbed and confessed fear over funds since her dad's venture faltered last year. Abruptly, Jessica's urgency clarified. Fear prompts ugly. Acts. David, what do you truly seek here? Not presumed once. He eyed his offspring erecting a detailed sand fort jointly. I seek Emma and Lucas maturing aware of absolute love. I seek their youth recalled as joyful, not when parents wrecked kin via avarice. I assented. Then discussed that appearance. But initially, one more individual required accountability lesson. The following dawn, Jessica arrived solo. She positioned at my entry in casual pants rather than luxury wear. Her locks in basic tie, appearing fresher and frielier than years prior. Margaret, may I enter? I must speak. I directed her to the light space where dawn rays poured through tall panes. She seated cautiously like fearing to damage valuables. David relayed your words yesterday on becoming the man his dad nurtured. Her words barely audible. I grasped I must reclaim the lady I was pre-fear morphing me into a stranger. What fear, Jessica? She inhaled unsteadily. My dad's building firm is insolvent. For 6 months. My folks subsist on plastic, upholding facades. Upon Robert's death, I believed David's legacy could rescue all. The fragments aligned. Jessica's escalating urgency, her folks' subtle abode value remarks, their zeal for elder plan. I persuaded myself you lacked need for that expanse, that wealth, that simplicity would suit you. Moisture trailed her face. But honestly, I dreaded losing my constructed life, confessing inability to aid my folks. And David merely sought my joy. He's always avoided clashes. She chuckled sourly. I weaponized that gentleness. Via the pane, I viewed Emma and Lucas on the sand with their dad. Their joy drifting on the sea air. Jessica, what do you desire for your kids? I desire their security, free from adult woes like my parental money fights. She regarded me straight initially. I desire their upbringing like David's. Guardians who cherished mutually and prioritized kin. Do you cherish David? I did. I do, but prolonged anger obscured its display. She dried her eyes. Yesterday, post-coffee with me, he devoted 2 hours to games with the kids. No device, no interruptions. Emma truly chuckled. First in months. Change is feasible, Jessica. But genuine, not mere speech. She assented. I know, and I must merit your pardon if feasible. It's not mine required. I uttered tenderly. It's theirs. I indicated the shore where her kids frolicked. And yours. That day, I decided something astonishing 6 weeks prior. I contacted Henry Morrison. Henry, I seek trust alterations. What alterations? I seek college reserves for Emma and Lucas, directed separately till 25. Complete fees, lodging, advanced if desired. That's kind, Mrs. Thompson. Not done. I seek a humble reserve for David and Jessica. Sufficient to clear their loan and fresh launch, but insufficient for complacency sans effort. How humble? $500,000 spread over 5 years, dependent on kin guidance and evidence of kids' priority. Henry paused. And noncompliance? Funds to aid groups, and they construct sans rescues. Mrs. Thompson, certain post their actions? I viewed David instructing Lucas stone skipping, both drenched and joyful. Emma beside me on terrace, reading and glancing to confirm family presence. Henry, Robert didn't bequeath $31 million for hoarding. He entrusted wise use. This is mine. That night, I summoned kin gathering on sand. David, Jessica, and kids assembled by flame area as stars emerged. I have announcements. I started on renewals and their price. Emma neared, sensing weight. Your grandpa's stated pardon isn't past erasure. It's future selection. I regarded David, Jessica, then grandkids meriting superior to parental chaos. So, here's our path. If this tale touches you, please like and subscribe. At times, we need reminders it's never late for love over dread. But my terms would astonish all. David, Jessica, I commenced, my words bearing earned insight's weight. I'll grant what your grandpa desired for you, an opportunity to reclaim losses. Jessica's gaze broadened with wary optimism. But grasp this, losses weren't currency. It was confidence, regard, and kids' family security. Emma rested on my arm while Lucas stirred the flames with a branch, both attentive with childlike intensity for life-shaping talks. Here are terms, I proceeded. First, both commit to 6 months kin guidance, not pair sessions, family ones, including Emma and Lucas. Learn dialogue sans destruction. David assented promptly. Jessica paused, then concurred. Second, vend current abode and relocate affordably on David's earnings solely. Cease excess. Cease facade upkeep. But our area, Jessica began. Your area contributes to issues, I interjected resolutely. Your kids need attentive guardians, not stressed over payments and symbols. Third, both donate 10 hours monthly at local aid center. Grasp true struggle and kids witness your aid over extraction. Lucas glanced from flames. May I aid too? If parents permit, yes, but post their consistent 3 months. Fourth, I proceeded, Jessica, personally regret to each Hamptons event attendee. Not digital, in person for disrespected friend. Jessica's features colored, but she assented. And fifth, both compose messages to Grandpa Robert, detailing lessons and vows for change. Those messages read at monthly kin meals for next year. To recall vows. David's tone fractured. Mom, if we falter? If change insufficient? I rose and approached waterline where swells captured moonlight like gems. Then endure choice outcomes. But David, your dad didn't nurture a surrenderer. And Jessica. Under fear and urgency, I glimpsed the youth who aided aid events and valued world improvement. I pivoted to them. If you fulfill terms steadily for full year, I'll aid modest home deposit. Emma and Lucas's learning. Reserves secure irrespective. But your renewal must be merited. Emma interjected, her young voice mature. If they succeed, can we reunite truly? Dear, I uttered, kneeling near. You're true kin already. Kin aren't flawless. They're folks loving sufficiently for retries post-errors. Like granting parents chance post-meanness. Precisely. Jessica rose suddenly, moisture flowing. Margaret, undeserved. Post my words, attempts, you're correct, I noted plainly. Undeserved. None merit mercy post-failure. But mercy isn't merit-based. It's love over resentment, optimism over reprisal. I gazed at stars, same as Robert and I viewed from the shore when he revealed the abode initially. Your grandpa stated strongest aren't fall-proof. They're risers who aid others rise. David advanced to me, his grown form resembling the youth requesting tales. Mom, I fear I'm irreparable. I touched his face as in youth during storms. David, fear proves value. Your fear signals grasp loss. 6 months on, I sat in the kin advisor's space where David, Jessica, and kids labored on trust rebuild. The advisor, Dr. Sarah Chin, grinned reviewing advancement. Mrs. Thompson, rare family shifts so fully. They've surpassed your terms. Via window, I viewed David and Jessica clasping hands as Emma and Lucas played on small area. They appeared tranquil, like folks grasping essentials. Your grandson Lucas queried last week, Dr. Chen proceeded. If family fixed. Know my reply? What? I told him families aren't mechanisms for repair. They're plots for care and his learned care with affection over dread. That night, at monthly kin meal in my Hamptons abode, our rebuild custom, I saw Emma aid her mom arrange while Lucas displayed data school art. Grandma Maggie, Emma uttered, placing blooms in holder. Mom and Dad acquire new abode next month. Smaller than prior, but large yard for Lucas and nook for me. And near for weekend visits, Lucas added, climbing my lap. Jessica neared warily, as occasionally, bearing Robert's preferred container with roast I instructed. Margaret, I'll never fully compensate your ordeal. But you rescued our kin. Rescued me from self-loathing. You rescued selves, I amended. I merely reminded possibility. David joined, with wine and grin absent since adolescence. Mom, news. Shelter invited Jessica to directors. Her funding concepts yielded donations unseen in 5 years. I regarded Jessica with true admiration. Your grandpa would approve. And David proceeded, my superior proposed advancement. Greater duties, improved schedule, raise sufficient to forego your final aid year. Accepting? Already did. Time for self-reliance. As we dined, Lucas demanded blessing, habit post-center visits. Dear God, thanks for Grandma loving us to improve. Thanks for aiding Mom and Dad recall kindness. And thanks for undeserved renewals. Amen. Amen. We repeated. Later, post their return to modest, joyful existence, I stood on terrace viewing swells under stars. I sensed Robert in sea wind. Heard him in wave cadence. Well executed, Maggie. Well executed. I'd grasped deep truth in these months viewing kin rebuild. Pardon isn't frailty. It's mightiest act. More bravery in mercy than grudge. More insight in guidance than penalty. My device signaled Emma's message. Night, Grandma Maggie. Thanks for persistence. Love you beyond stars. I grinned, responded, love you beyond swells. And entered my lovely, serene abode. Not merely Robert's gift structure, but existence built from betrayal remnants. Occasionally, greatest legacy isn't funds. Occasionally, it's bravery to revive folks with love. Thanks for accompanying Margaret through sorrow, resilience, and renewal. If this moved you, please subscribe and share with needy of value reminder. Recall, never late for love over dread, mercy over resentment. Your tale counts.